What is up, guys? iCraver Spilt Milk here. Today I'm going to be doing my ratings video for the current Formula 1 2023 season. So depending on when you're watching this, so we just had the first Grand Prix at Bahrain. I like to do my ratings after the first Grand Prix, so there's no sandbagging. We can see what the cars are really like in race trim. It's been quite a hard one to do this time. We obviously know who's going to be number one, but it's just deciding who's going to be in 20th. I mean, there's no cop-out with Latifi or Mazepin to make that one easy, so it's been quite hard to do. It's been quite hard to find a winner out of the losers, who's going to be 20th. So, let's get into it. So, in 20th place, I have a bit of a drum roll for this one. It's going to be might be a bit of surprise. I've got Oscar Piastri driving for McLaren. It was hard to pick a winner or loser from the pack, as no one has really stood out as being the worst driver. The last few years, it's been easy, to choose between Mazepin or Latifi for 20th, but I don't have an easy cop out for 2023. I suppose you'll be wondering why I picked Piastri for 20th place. Out of all the test sessions we've had and during the first Grand Prix we've had, for me, on average, Piastri has been towards the back of the field, although it's not entirely his fault. The McLaren, in my opinion, is the worst car in the field at the moment, with Alpine not too far ahead of the McLaren. And it's quite funny because we expected these two teams to be in the battle for 4th or 5th in the championship. After, I think Aston Martin have got the 4th place tagged on. So I reckon it'll be Alpine and McLaren fighting for 5th place now. In fact, out of all Piastri's options he could have picked for 2023, I think right now he would have been actually better at going on loan to Williams after all, rather than picking between the Alpine or the McLaren. However, I am sure Piastri will not be 20th for long in my rankings once everything shakes out. Also, I put Piastri in 20th because of all the hype, of him at the moment, all the hype of him going to McLaren, that big move, that big news in the middle of last season, and it's kind of fell flat on his face, if you know what I mean. It hasn't worked out at all. At the moment, he is making Daniel Ricciardo look good, but as I said before, I'm sure like last season, the McLaren will turn it around and be in the hunt for 4th or 5th by the end of the season. So in 19th place, this has been quite really hard to decide. It's been a while getting this video out, so it's probably been, it's been taking so many times I've come back to this and changed my opinion, watched the Bahrain Grand Prix again, watching from every angle, and all the test testing, looking at all the data again and coming up with an order, who I think should be, in these positions at the back, and so I can justify him as well, because I put Piastri in 20th. I've justified why I think is 20th, and again with 19th, as I don't think any of the drivers have been particularly bad. It's been basically, it's like you've got the top 5, top 4 teams, and then you've got the rest of the pack, in the hunt for like lower points. So in 19th place, I put Nick De Vries of AlphaTauri. For the rookies at the moment. Again, like Piastri, we expected better from De Vries at the moment. Tsunoda was achieving his one goal for the season comfortably. Just to repeat that goal, I've mentioned it many times, in previous videos. The goal for Tsunoda this season, by all costs, he must beat De Vries to keep himself relevant in Formula 1, and Tsunoda is doing exactly that at the moment. However, like Piastri, I'm sure that De Vries will do better once we get further into the season, but 19th is where I'll place him at the moment. So it's more to do with the fact that I don't have any previous seasons data to any previous reputation to like Norris, who to put them higher up than in 19th and 20th at the moment, both De Vries and Piastri. Moving on to 18th place, it's Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. It's amazing what difference a year makes. Last year we were completely stupefied by the 5th place that K-Mag scored. Now this year he has, fallen back down to earth after a very average race in Bahrain. I think K-Mag needs another season out of the sport again. and have a third false dawn as he gets good results in his first race after he has a full season out of Formula One. So I think the season went before he joined Renault. He had one race for McLaren, so he needs to have another. He needs to have another full season out, and then when he comes back, he'll get a really good result. It's kind of funny how that happens, but that's K-Mag for you. In 17th place, another bit might be a bit controversial. Nico Hulkenberg also in the Haas. So on average, the Haas team seems to be the worst, I think. But I always expected that because with the Haas, their drivers, they're kind of like I think they're like on average the oldest on the grid. No young guns. They've got very dependent. Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hulkenberg, very dependable. Sort of, that what they are. They've only got a few more years left in them at most. They're not going to be not World Championship material, but they're still dependable enough to score the points and tick the team over for now. So why did I pick Nico Hulkenberg for 17th? The only reason why I put Hulk ahead of K-Mag is that Hulk made Q3 at Bahrain, even though Hulk did finish behind K-Mag in the race. In my opinion, the Haas is the worst Ferrari-powered car, and is perhaps the 8th or 9th fastest car, with even both Williamses ahead of the Haas's. We thought team principal Gunther Steiner would be able to have a calm season this year, but not if things carry on like this. Moving on to 16th place, I've got Guan Yu Zhou of the Alfa Romeo. I'm not sure what the thinking was at Alfa, pitting on the penultimate lap and going all in to grab the fastest lap. Maybe Frederic Vasseur, the team principal of Ferrari, has asked his old team to take the fastest lap away from the Red Bulls. Maybe I'm just too cynical like that. Zhou has been doing alright, but he needs to find that little bit extra, I think, much like his predecessor Antonio Giovinazzi. But being a consistent racer is not enough. They were both really good racers, both scoring points on the odd occasion, but they do need to be more, score points more often and be more wow, if you know what I mean. Like get them more, these good results more often. You need to be scraping in. You need to be scraping in the points more, like what like his teammate Bottas is doing, especially when Alfa have a driver like Théo Pourchaire in tow. For me, Zhou would only be keeping his seat at the moment if there's no one to replace him. Hopefully, he'll improve as the season goes on. In 15th place, I think this is really justified. Lando Norris in the McLaren is kind of fallen like a stone here. He's always been consistently in the top 10, and now he's languishing in 15th place. But looking at where the McLaren is at the moment, that seems justified. Thankfully, Norris's reputation precedes him. Otherwise, I may have placed him lower in the list. Again, it's like I said with Piastri, it's more of the car letting him down. Norris needed a total of 6 stops, I think it was, in Bahrain, just to reach the finish line. He finished last, even behind Ocon, who was having the race day from hell. Surely only McLaren can only get better from here. Enough of McLaren. We all know that they are particularly bad at the moment. Let's move on quickly to 14th place. With that, in 14th place, Yuki Tsunoda of the AlphaTauri. Yuki Tsunoda has certainly improved since De Vries has joined the team. I think it's been that shot in the arm that Tsunoda needs. He's been happy with Gasly. There's no real pressure on him. There's no one coming through the Red Bull program to replace him. Tsunoda is very clear about what his objective is this season. And if he keeps it up, it'll probably be De Vries who will have to go shopping for a new car at a different team. I think the AlphaTauri will be in a season battle towards the end of the grid, so it'll be a tough season. But if Tsunoda beats De Vries, then for me it should be Tsunoda keeping his drive alive. In 13th place, quite a shock one, Logan Sargent in the Williams. Out of all the rookies, rookies going onto the grid, we expected Sargent to struggle the most, but actually, he had the best race weekend of them all. Sargent should have made Q2, which would have been impressive for a rookie in the Williams. He got exactly the same time as Norris, so if only he went out there a bit sooner, I think Norris was lucky to get into Q2, to be honest. But there you go. I think having the pressure off helped Sargent compared to De Vries and Piastri. as if Sargent finished in top 15, that would have been seen as a good result. So it's a good result for Sargent to build on. Can Sargent score points this season? If he keeps going, I can't see why not. But for sure, he is an improvement on Latifi. I think that's one thing for sure. I think Williams made the right move in dropping Latifi and bringing Logan Sargent in. In 12th place, Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. Starting plumb last in Bahrain is, I'm sure, not what Gasly wanted for his first race. In an Alpine, a car expecting the challenge for the upper midfield coming to the end of the season. However, Gasly had the better Sunday and essentially swapped with teammate Ocon, with Gasly finishing ninth where Ocon started, and Ocon pretty much finishing all but last. I put Gasly behind Ocon as saying what Gasly did from last. Imagine what Ocon could have done if he wasn't having a day from hell, if he wasn't being picked on by the stewards. Okay, Ocon may have not been as spectacular and would probably only challenge for about 7th or 8th in the end, behind the Red Bulls, Ferraris, Mercs and Astons. I'm sure Gasly would have been relieved to finish in the points after starting 20th in the Alpine. In 11th place, I've got Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. It was a real Jekyll and Hyde race for Alpine. Ocon doing well on the Saturday and Gasly doing well on the Sunday. And I put Ocon ahead of Gasly, as I'm sure Ocon would have made it 1-0 against Gasly, both in qualifying and in the race. Ocon would probably finish ahead of Gasly if he didn't upset the stewards so much. If I ever have a bad day, just remind me that other people had worse days, like Ocon at the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix. It is amazing Ocon did not finish last, beating Norris still. And also, both Alpines beat both McLarens. One of the McLarens retired and the other one, had pits 6 times. So it's not really a high bar anyway, but for Alpine, that's a good start. They'll probably identify McLaren as their biggest rival, the team they need to beat, so they'll be happy with that. So both Alpines beat both McLarens, meaning advantage Alpine after the first race in the 4th place or 5th place for constructors. It was good to see Ocon and Norris battling for last place. Hopefully that battle was a metaphor for the season-long rivalry between the teams. Both teams want 4th place or 5th place if Aston keep going. It could be a three-way battle between Alpine, Aston Martin and McLaren. Anyway, let's ease off the battle for 4th in the constructors for a bit and move on. So we're going to move into the top 10 now. We're going to start dishing out some points. So we've got some quite surprised people. I think that people will be surprised to see, like Bottas and Albon in the top 10. But who was going to get 10th place? In 10th place, Alex Albon for Williams. Another very solid day in the office from Albon, literally making a point for himself, finishing 10th in his first race and 10th in my ratings as well. Alex is still taking the Williams place as it has no right to be. And if he keeps on like this, he might not find himself in the Williams for much longer, as he will find himself in a more competitive car and team. I think we can expect a few low point finishes for Albon this season. In 9th place, scoring 2 points, Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo. Bottas is certainly cashing in the traditional Sauber Alfa Romeo trait of having a midfield warrior car at the beginning of the season before the traditional slide that Alfa and Sauber have towards the end of the season after the other teams catch up. Alfa Romeo needs to cash in now while the Alpine and McLarens are all over the track, and Bottas is certainly doing that, scoring a solid 8th place at Bahrain. Here we go, so into the top 8 teams. Only the top 4 teams remain. Who's going to get number 8? I think it's going to be pretty obvious knowing what I've done in the past. So in 8th place, Lance Stroll, Aston Martin. So we're on to the top 4 teams now. We're gonna break with Lance Stroll being last in this group due to hitting teammate Alonso during the race, which is something you do not do in Formula 1. However, Alonso certainly didn't mind by the end of the race. This Aston is perhaps the best car Lance has ever had to drive, and he really needs to put it to good use to prevent his dad from even considering dropping him for a driver that can keep up with Alonso without any love taps. Yes, he did drive without any testing and with an injury, but it does make you wonder what Felipe Drugovich or another driver like Vettel would have done instead of Stroll. Would the other driver be with Alonso securing a 3-4? Anyway, moving on to 7th place. In 7th place, I've got George Russell in the Mercedes. After a troubled testing season, it looks like Lewis now has the upper hand again, and the momentum has shifted towards Hamilton in Mercedes. I think George needs to get his head back into the game after his comment believing Red Bull already have one hand on the title. In addition, the Aston Martin uses a lot of parts used by the Mercedes, but it seems that Aston have got more out of their car compared to the Works Mercedes, which is pretty embarrassing for the Works team. I bet Vettel's reconsidering his retirement, and Alonso's thanking his lucky stars that this transfer is working out compared to many of his past moves. But I digress, and we're coming off Russell. I think after Russell edged out Hamilton as Mercedes' best driver, Hamilton has come back from the break wanting to get his team back, proving he is the better Mercedes driver. In 6th place, moving into the top 5 soon, but in 6th place I've got Sir Lewis Hamilton of Mercedes. Speaking of Mercedes drivers edging each other out, Hamilton has just edged out Russell in my ratings. Hamilton believes more in his car compared to Russell. Hamilton believing that his team will be where they need to be by the season's end, and as the Aston Martin and Mercedes cars are very similar, if Aston can do something, then why can't Mercedes do it better? Hamilton is confident that if Mercedes has more downforce, it'll be a good car. Can Hamilton win his record 8th title this season? I'm already sounding like Russell and think it'll be a long shot this season, but once everything resets in 2024, maybe go again then, and maybe then Hamilton can claim his record 8th title. Also, remember, Mercedes dominated in Brazil at the end of 2022, so I think Mercedes will aim for at least one win this season. Are the Astons ahead of Mercedes? I would say yes at the moment. Mercedes have the better driving pairing, but Alonso can beat both Mercedes, so maybe it'll be a battle for third between, third in the constructors, which will be led by Alonso in the Aston. It'll be between Mercedes and Aston as the season goes on, with McLaren and Alpine fighting for 5th place rather than 4th place once both teams get to grips with their car. So moving on to the top 5 now, we've got the 2 Ferraris, 2 Red Bulls, and Fernando Alonso to place. So who's going to go in the top 5? Not many drivers to go now. In 5th place, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. Not much to say on Sainz. He's pretty much where he should be, behind the Red Bulls and his teammate, but ahead of the Mercedes and the Aston of Stroll. I think the podiums will be contested by Leclerc, Verstappen, Perez and Alonso, but if the Ferrari suits the circuit and is reliable, Sainz should get a few podiums this year and maybe even sneak a win. Hopefully Ferrari can make the most of their chances with Vasseur at the helm. Hopefully the Ferrari strategy should be better. So moving on to the top 4, who should be in 4th place? Once this I pick number 4, should become pretty clear who the top 3 will be and what order they'll be in. So in 4th place, Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. Like Sainz, I've got not much to say on Perez. All Perez needs to do is be the rear gunner to Verstappen, and he'll be just fine. Perez should be in Hunt's podiums. Well, he's already scored one, and even wins if Verstappen is having a bad day. After Brazil 2022, it's still to be seen if Perez will play nice with Verstappen if needed. So onto the podium now. Will this be what the podium will be throughout the season? Who knows? So in 3rd place, we've got Leclerc, we've got Verstappen, and we've got Alonso. Who's going to be in 3rd place? Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. After many tries since his first spell with Renault, Alonso has finally moved to a team at the right time when it's found its sweet spot. I bet Vettel is kicking himself. Can Alonso be world champion with Aston Martin? I think Alonso will have to settle for a win or two this season. The Red Bull was just too good at the moment, so Alonso will have to duke out with the Ferraris for the last spot on the podium. Maybe next season for Alonso, if the Aston's really good, he'll be, perhaps the oldest world champion. Who knows? So on to the top two now. I won't delay because it's pretty obvious who's going to be number 2 and number 1. In second place, Charles Leclerc of Ferrari. I am still of the opinion that Leclerc will be Verstappen's biggest rival outside of Perez for the championship. If the Ferrari build a reliable car that Leclerc can keep on the road, I believe Leclerc can be at least in contention for the title for a longer period of time, until a later stage in the season compared to 2022. So in first place, Max Verstappen, Red Bull. Was this ever in doubt? Can anyone stop Verstappen from claiming his third consecutive championship? Nothing more to say on Verstappen, really. All I can say, it will just take something like crippling reliability to stop Verstappen marching to his third title. So that's my ratings for the 2023 races at the moment. Who would you put in first place? Who would you put in 20th place? I want to hear in the comments what you think. So just to repeat again, we just had the Grand Prix, but if you're watching this, years to come, to see how we were at the beginning of the 2023 season. We've just had the Bahrain Grand Prix. We've got the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, not this weekend, but the weekend after. So hopefully then we'll get a bit more idea about the field, about the state of play. Thank you very much for watching this video. I should be back later on. I think I'll do another video mid-season. I'm sure it'll be very different to what I've put at the moment. Brilliant. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.